Guys, welcome to Construct Your Life. I got my man Connor in the house. Dude, this guy is a dynamo. He went from starting a company, managing one company CFO, to 600 million, 15 employees in 2.5 years. He's amazing. He's so smart, articulate. You're going to love this episode. So dive in and check it out.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Oh, guys, we got him. Now, here's the deal. I'm scared because there's only one other person that I've met in my life that's as smart as you, and he's my best friend. And you know, I think smart's the wrong word, right? We have Connor here. I think you think through plans deeper than others, right? I read your post this morning, right? And you said like, I'm going to sell in 10 years. Like you just literally said like, I'm going to sell. That's what I'm going to do. And like, it's rare for me to find somebody like me too. I told my fiance when I met her, I said, I just got sober. I said, give me 10 years. I said, I'm going to be a banshee for 10 years. And then I'm going to switch into more of a consulting, teaching young kids. And I'm going to do that at the back of my career. Like when you have that timeline in your business, it's really easy to work hard in the moment because you know, right?
There's a timeline. There's a game clock, right? I mean, it doesn't let me say I'll do this tomorrow.
I love that. So before we jump too far in, kind of give everybody a little bit of your backstory, what you do, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. So about 2.5 years ago, I left a small kind of local business in the media and marketing space. A couple $1 million revenue, was growing quickly. You're very typical what you see on SMB Twitter, although the industry was different. No finance function, no bookkeeping, no accounting. Wife is doing the financials. And they had some complexities there that were more complex because they had entities and international employees, and they tried to do the whole like entity thing internationally, but like that's a whole another topic. And so that really opened up my eyes to the kind of this like really our core market, like sub $25 million revenue business, what the insides of that actually look like and what are some of the concerns, issues, complexities that they deal with. And transparently, that just got me more confident. And then more or less decided to start a company called Scalable. So now we do kind of fractional CFO, bookkeeping, controller, FP&A services. We'd like to move into some other tax, and then moving more into kind of the product space for that market also. But really right now it's like I said, core market, sub 25 million, trying to provide high quality fractional CFO, bookkeeping, FP&A controller services, just depending on what the need are. And like the very simple answer is like the owners need more insight, someone who's kind of seen lots of different businesses, sometimes in the same industries, sometimes in different industries, and just help them be able to like run and operate their business effectively and know what's going on and know what the next steps are, and try and be able to do that without having to go hire someone full time. And like we kind of we want to scale with people until they get to the point where they need to go hire someone full time. And that's a success story for us. Right. So that's kind of the very simplified version. And transparently, I've loved it. And we've got a team of about 15 people now. And all of our audience comes from Twitter and referral business. And as you kind of alluded to in my post, it's social first, right? Like I'm never going to promise this, but the goal is to never have to run ads or PPC or anything and just go, hey, if I put out good content that's helpful to people, it should feed the back engine of the business and allow us to grow in the right way. And there's some other benefits to that, but that's kind of the very simple version of what we're doing, what we're working on, and where we like to go.
How long ago did you start the business?
So it would have been November of 2021. Actually, someone that you know from Twitter, Stephen Ullman, he's big on trying to get people to quit their W-2 and go work for themselves. So he called me one Friday afternoon and said, "Hey, you already have one fractional CFO client that wasn't even structured around, like I wouldn't even call it a fractional CFO at the time. Just helping small businesses with the financials as far as I had gotten." And he said, "Hey, how much do you need to make for you to quit your job and do this full time?" And he's like, "I'll pay you that number, but you have to quit your job. Otherwise I'm not hiring you." And luckily we've had a 2 or 3 year relationship, and we've got good rapport and some trust there. And so I was like, okay, well, that's compelling. Like that seems like a window to go do this thing. And so that was November of 2021, and then ended up doing it, and just kind of been building ever since.
And as we sit today, how much, revenue do you manage so people can see the scale of your company?
Yeah. So we're managed just on the advisory side, CFO, probably about 600 million in revenue. Probably about 75 clients across the board. And like I said, they're all like, if you take out 2 or 3 clients, the average of those really sits between that 5 and 25 million in revenue. Okay. That's where 90% of those clients, that we just happen to have 2, I think it's 3 that are like north of 50 million that kind of skew that. But like, it's very much we see a lot. For perspective, that's probably about 575 million of spend. And so it's like, we like to say it's basically $100 million a month that we're overseeing going in and out of businesses.
And so I wanted everybody to get the picture of the scale. I'm actually in the process of, over the next year or two, teaching myself this aspect of the business, because it's not an area that I deem myself skilled in. And I think when I'm doing with the business that you're unaware of, that we're building right now on the side, I need to be versed in kind of understanding this framework. So I'm learning. But I think what's interesting, right, is the no ads, you went from 0 to, managing 600 million is a lot. And obviously it's not, we just throw it off like it's easy. But my question to you is very simple. Like, who did you have to become as a person from 10 million to just say, let's start at 50 million? Yep. Who did you have to become in that time frame?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really simple, right? It's, you had to learn to figure it out, right? And this most simple way of kind of describing what that actually feels like is, I was going and pitching CFO services to customers and clients that liked me as a person and was willing to bet on me to figure it out. Like at that 10 to 50, 60, probably even upwards of 100, it was like, transparently, I didn't tell people I had this big, long, fancy track record. I was trying to be honest with people and say, hey, look, my job is to go figure it out for you. And that became very much a skill for us. And then really about 100 million is when I hired my first team member. And then that's obviously shifted a lot since then. But really it was like what SMB Twitter talks about. Like, it's the grit factor of just like, you just got to learn to figure it out. Because people were asking me questions about businesses that I didn't have any clue. But like, they were okay with that. But the job was still to go find them the answer.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net.
What's interesting, right? And I think what people don't get is we've got an investor in our business now, and that's a long story on its own for a separate podcast. But he's told me from day one, he's a very successful man. He said, I'm not invested in, I get the business. I sold my business for millions, and I understand the HVAC space. But let it be known, I'm investing in you because I believe in you. And when I learned that as an entrepreneur and a business owner, then I was more focused on making sure that I was stuck to my values, my core beliefs, and the business becomes, I'm not saying easy, but it's more of a manageable metric in the business when you know that you're but it's also a lot of responsibility too.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, they were like, I'm a early riser. And so there were days where I had to wake up even earlier. And there were days I had to stay up even later. And like, transparently, it was like the old Gary V got me through some of it, of like the embrace the suck. Like, it does suck some days, but like, you signed up for it, so don't complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I tell my team all the time, like, you said you wanted to eat, you better be hungry.
Yeah, like, I wanted to go do this. I wanted to jump off the cliff and go run my own business. Like, no one in history said it was easy, so don't expect it to be easy for me.
So you start bringing on team members. You know, yep. I don't know if when you were a young kid, you were dreaming about, you saw yourself as a leader of people. You know, where did you take your learnings, and kind of what's your philosophy when it comes to like leading a team?
Yeah, it's a good question, and definitely one that, like, first employee would have been summer of 22, right? So I've had team members for 21 months, give or take, right? So still trying to figure all that out. The very simple version of it is high trust, kind of the give trust first, right? Let them fail. Say, hey, look, we can replace clients. I can't replace good team members. That's much harder. And then really, like, one thing that we've done really uniquely, and going back to that post where we're talking about products and services and down the road, of like, I genuinely hope that kind of our first 10, 15, 25 hires, like, we partner with in some form or fashion on a business, or whether it be an acquisition, whether it be something we start internally, and just kind of give them the free reign of, like, one thing that I did include in my post is, like, I hope to, like, the exact numbers, like, I hope I own less than 75% of the entire business by the time I sell it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it, like a real goal for me. I want real partners that have real skin in the game and that can earn transparently, like, millions of dollars when we do go exit the business. And so the very simple version of it is, like, high trust, make people feel like they're real partners in the business, give them real autonomy. Like, someone came to me the other day and asked for budget and said, hey, I think we need to go hire one more person. And it's like, you know what? Let's do it. Right? Like, we've got the money to do it. We're in a good business, and like, he's got a reason to think that he needs more help. So it's like, okay, let's trust him on that, and give him the autonomy to do that. And I think really the one thing that I love, probably the biggest aspect of it, is like, a majority of our team on the CFO side are like really good thinkers relative to like finance backgrounds, right? Like, two of our team members that own their own engagements and probably have our best like client relationships came from, like, one was engineering and one was data, like no finance background. And they've like just been able to crush it. Now you have to layer in some finance on top of them, and it's been a progression, but like, really it's finding people that want to get into the weeds, that want to do the work. Because I've also told people, like, the SMB finance world of like this 5 to 25, they don't need sophisticated. They need a partner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, where I think we've lost a lot, and I've had this conversation multiple times, and I've had this conversation with Chris from System 6. I've had it with you. I've had it with other carrier who we use for a lot of our vendors. We're in business together, boys and girls.
Yeah.
This is not a I tell you what to do kind of business. This is I got 70 irons in the fire, and the more I got to focus on what you're doing is the less I can focus on what I need to do. And so I told Carrier, I said, we order a product and it shows up. You give us the best price you got at that day, and we'll continue to feed you. Like, Chris is System 6. You do our books, and if you fuck up, then we're going to tell you that you fucked up, and you have an obligation to fix it. And instead of being a dictator and saying, oh, this is the way you're going to do it, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. It's like, if I value my team members, then they need to like show that I value them. And that comes from, like, I would say not even the big things, right? Like, I've got people on my team that have been able to go from W-2 to working alongside me, and feel more entrepreneurial and to make more money. But it's also like, if I want to give them responsibility to take off my plate as I grow the business, And like, it starts in the middle, like in the micro, right? It's the like, hey, Connor, I think we need to go hire someone to help with some of this back end work. It's like, great. Like,
dude,
I'll trust you. And if 6 months were wrong, then like, great. It's an offshore analyst. Like, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg. And like, when you zoom out to like, to your point around the 10-year goal, it's like, it's so inconsequential. If that doesn't work out, it doesn't matter.
Dude, Rhett, I'm going through a weird time right now, and I interviewed Rhett yesterday, and I asked him some advice. So I handed over CEO reins about 6 weeks ago, right? It was a 2-month process where we gave it up. And now my whole days are spent with kissing babies, more acquisitions, working about the second location, negotiating contracts is kind of my specialty. And I'm busier. I have multiple businesses. I'm busier than I've ever been, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything anymore.
Yeah.
Because I built my whole life on work, right? And he said, what you have to understand when you get to the scale that you're talking about is that there's 1,000 decisions made every month. And you have to make about 5 decisions a year. And those 5 decisions are greater than those 1,000 decisions.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I didn't like put the because it's just easy to me, like what I do and like, you know, and that's the thing that me and Conrad joke about, my business partner, is that we wanted a lifestyle business, but now that we have it, we feel like we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So it's a weird paradox. It's so weird.
Yeah. No, I'm still in the weeds, but there's days where I'm like, I'll have a 8-hour stretch or a full day with like no meetings, and I know my team does, and it's just kind of like I feel like I should be somewhere, but like I can't come up with a place to be.
Dude, it's I told him yesterday he's in the Caribbean right now on a family trip, and I was like, I think we might have to start a little business where we don't care about making money, but it's like something that we just do on the side because, you know, entrepreneurs need to eat, right? It's such a weird, I mean, you have a kid, so you got your hands full.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is the farther you get out, because I mean, there are not a lot of meetings that I have to be in anymore. But I told Ryan this, my COO, I said, I plant seeds where seeds need to be planted.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the luxury of the soft touch sometimes because he's in the weeds. And so I'm kind of come behind him and like lay down the fertilizer, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, totally. Like, and it's a great way of putting it, because it's ultimately, to your point, like most of the last probably 90 days for me has been focused more on, okay, what's the first and second and third products we're going to launch? What does that look like? Who's going to run those? What is that structure going to look like? How are we going to get that out there? And how to get some early customers and those sorts of things, versus like, where's this deliverable for this advisory client, right? Yeah. And it's ultimately, to your point, it's going to be 90 days. I work with Thomas, who's on my team, and he'll start to go do the work and the groundwork on them. And then once we hopefully get one up and running that's working, it's like, great. Now it's time to kind of, to your analogy, like start laying the fertilizer for the next one. Mm-hmm. And that'll start to come to fruition 90, 180 days later.
Yeah. I love it. All right. So we're going to unpack some finance stuff for businesses.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and say it for you, so you don't have to say it for yourself. If you don't have clean books, don't hire a CFO.
Correct.
How many times did you say that?
Yeah. And that comes from starting the advisory business first and going, yeah, we can help with that. And then realizing very quickly that there's a whole nother problem there. And it's just like, hey man, like I don't know what to tell you, but I can't help you anymore. Mm-hmm. Like it's probably the thing that we now default to the most, is because like on the advisory side, very early on in the first year, we would say to people like, yeah, like here's kind of what we can do for you, right? Like here's the process, here's the timeline, here's expectations, all the things, prepare a scope, great. But we'd never ask to like actually see the books. It's just like, oh, you're an HVAC company doing $7 million of revenue. We've worked with 8 of those. Like there's no way that I can't help you. Like I just know it well enough. And then you start getting to the point where it's like, well, wait, hold on. You haven't done books in 6 months? Or like your balance sheet showing that you have $7 million of cash and you only have $82,000 in the bank account? Like yeah, like, and so like now we've got a much more thorough ongoing process to like, I have to see your books beforehand. Otherwise I will not sign with you. My team will not work with you. Now bookkeeping's a little bit different because it's obviously we're getting hired to then clean that stuff up. But like on the advisory side, like I want to see financials. I want to see how messy it is because it's like, now I'll just pass you to our bookkeeping team for a month or 2 months or however long it takes before I even do any advisory work. And it's like, it took some maturity to get to that point to say, hey, I know that you want to pay me, but like, I don't feel right now taking your money because like, I can't help. Like you're ending up paying triple for CFO work when you really just need bookkeeping work. And like, that just seems wrong.
It's an odd thing, right? Because I'm all about building towards the future. That's all the way I look. I'm 3-5 years ahead of everybody. But what we found when we reshifted and been through what we've been through the last 16 months, whatever, 15 months, is that a lot of the stuff, if you just keep it simple, you don't really need it until you get about 10 million. Until you get about 10 million, you don't really need it. Like at 10 million, we'll hire an HR department. Like when we have 3 locations, we'll have an HR department. But there is something to be said as a business owner to see inside of each facet of the business. So when you do hire that person, you can kind of give them the right compass, for lack of a better word.
Totally. Yeah. It's like we see, even for us, we see people's, I mean, it's why I preach about it on Twitter so much, right? It's people see the CFO role differently based on who you are and what your context is. Mm-hmm. And so it's why, like, it's why I think we have much better understanding from day one of what we can do for someone that reaches out because we're social first, because they've read the posts and the tweets and how I engage with people, and maybe even DM me sometimes or ask questions publicly or whatever. And so they have some context to that already. And ultimately it's like, we have some clients that just want to call us when they want to call us and put a more traditional retainer, and some people, they want us in the weeds. And it's like, great. Like there are different types of CFOs and those are all okay. But to your point, it's like we've kind of tried to adopt this more in the last like probably 180 days, where it's like our goal, if you're sub $2 or $3 million, is to like take on a super light engagement where we're more teaching you, like not coaching because we're doing the work.
It almost feels like a class, like a mastermind almost.
Yeah. And like transparently, like not to divulge too much, but like we've certainly got some asks for that of like, hey, like, can you just put down something that just like you're sub $2 million business owner, you've seen the inside of a million of them. Can you just like write down something like, I'll pay for it. Just write down this, excuse my French, but the shit that I need to know that's going to go wrong. It's like, here, go to Zen Business and file an LLC and then get your CPA to file an S Corp election. And here's how you pay yourself. And like, just the really basic stuff. Cause ultimately we get so much of that in that sub $5 million market of like, man, like, cause we've gotten much better, like firing ourselves on engagements that I was like, hey, look, what you're asking for, you're overpaying for. Because if you just wanted to go spend an hour on the internet, you probably find the answer. And for whatever reason, they might have the capital to pay for it or outside capital or whatever. And so, yeah, it's like below that, it's just the basics, right? Like go do your own 13-week cash flow model for a bit, or go do your own forecast and realize that there's a skill set to it. And it's not made to be 100% accurate. And like it's why like at first we really started at $1 million, but really like we really don't want to take on work under 2 or 3 now, because ultimately it's like, to your point, like you need to go learn for yourself to some degree.
You know, Raphael Quinn posted about this. They bought a business, bad accounting. He spent 6 months. He said it changed his life when he looked at his other businesses. You know, for me, we're working on big M&A deals right now, and this is large money, right? And I want to know enough to eloquently speak in a room to understand, you know, the difference, right? And I started off with as simple as this. Conrad taught me. He said, I call it the 10, the hour, and the three hour rule. I said, what is that? He said, if you can look at it for 10 minutes and you still want to look at it and it's a business worth buying, you look at it for an hour. If you look at it for an hour, then you look at it for 4 hours. And now I can go through a business and go, okay, that works, that doesn't work. I need to know about those three things. But that took me looking at CIMs and understanding the different frameworks of business. And it's amazing because if you buy one business, you're probably going to buy two. So the more that you know, you're going to be more inclined. You know what's crazy? What I would buy now and what I would have bought before we bought the first business, not even close. I won't even buy it. We're going to go build greenfield and organic because I don't trust what the quality that's out there.
Yeah, like doing our own, because I would like to acquire. We're not going to force it, but we'd like to acquire. And there's 2 or 3 firms out there that we've talked to that like I think are so far and away better than the others that like everything else I look at, I'm like, man, I'm okay waiting 2 years. And I know Twitter's like, go do it tomorrow. It's like, but the benefit is like I have a cash flowing business that allows me to wait and be patient. That like I don't need to do it tomorrow. I can still service the demand. There's just something in those assets that allow me to feel like if I go buy those, I'm taking a leap ahead versus just buying revenue and income. And
well, because it's a hollow grasp, right? I think the bigger issue is that I realize that the more that you remove your own ego and your own personal needs from the business, the better the business runs. And it took me a long time to learn that.
Yeah, like. As entrepreneurs, we want to say that we're the most important, but our businesses become the most valuable when we're the least important.
Oh, dude, that's what Reg said yesterday. Like 99% of the things that I do for the business, not a single employee in the business sees.
Yeah.
They don't see it for 3 years, and they go, oh, why were we so successful? Well, Austin's been out there for 3 years pumping it. And now when I show up to work, they call me part-timer, and I love it. I think it's so great. Like, I'm like, you literally have no idea what we're talking about or what's building. But I found peace in my own, in building up my own self, meaning, am I healed? Do I feel healthy? Like, that's kind of the game now. And for me, you just were blessed with it. For me, it's kids very soon. And I'm going to do everything necessary to put the business in a position where I have options as an owner to spend time with my kid when I want to.
Yeah, it is shocking how quickly that has changed for me in the last 4 weeks. Like he was 4 weeks old yesterday. And he'll be a month on Sunday. And it is now all of a sudden like I like to work, right? Like I genuinely do. But like I also, to your point, want the flexibility between 6 and 9 p.m. to hang out with my wife and my kid and just like sit on the couch and hold him while he falls asleep, right? Like 6 months ago, it was like, yeah, like I'll just work and grind through it. Now it's like, okay, like for us, that shows itself through like our margin's going to go down a little bit. But like I just value being a good father and husband more than an extra 4 percentage points of margin. Like I'll make that trade all day. But it's how quickly that's happened since he's been here that like that whole mindset has shifted almost to like the extreme side of like where you're at of like, now I just like want the business to operate by itself and I'm willing to invest nearly anything to get there because I think it's a good business that has legs to run. Mm-hmm. And I just want to become completely non-important so that I can either work on the things I want or just do the personal things in my life that I want to.
1,000%. And so, you're in a business where this is a very tricky dance because people are very emotional about their money. Yeah. So how do you build trust in a relationship like that when they, it's the same way I feel about the bookkeeper. It's very, intimate relationship with the books. What have you learned over your years about trust when it comes to managing people's money and kind of giving them advice?
Yeah. So it's the thing that I didn't realize until a few months in is, once you start to see these like personal balance sheets and realize, like 97% of your retirement and net worth is this business, right? And that's just entrepreneurship. That's the risk, right? And that's okay. And so it's really for us been like it's kind of starting from the top of like being so public, like because it's like having good reputations with people and showing up at events, like knowing that like I do my best to be a valuable member of this community. I think starts with a layer of trust that you wouldn't get if I just ran ads, right? So like that's kind of like what I would call the non one-on-one trust, like the social trust. And then I think to like that second point is, or to that kind of the supplementary part of that is the like just asking them like, hey, if your business is small, like how much do you need to take home to live your life? I don't care if it's $20,000 a month, $200,000 a month, or $2,000 a month. But like, we just have to know where you're at. Like, have you taken out personal loans? Have you mortgaged your house? Have you taken a HELOC? Like, we just need to get it all out there, because it would just be the same as a financial advisor if you didn't tell them about your business. It's like, well, that's not super helpful. So it's the same with us. Like, we have to understand what's going on to some degree in your financial life outside of the business. And then really just like, hey, look, like, I get it. This is sometimes stressful. The cash in your business pays for your vacation and your kids and your wife and husband and whatever it might be. And so it's really just about being really intentional of saying like, hey, I get that this is like your retirement plan. Like, it's really just understanding that, because I do think that there's a fractional CFO community out there that, like, I would say is a whole different class than what we do, which is like they're the CFO of ServiceNow and they took them public and made $82 million and they can come consult for $1,500 an hour. It's like for me, I get it. My wife doesn't work. So like, I have the same responsibility to make sure that I can make money so that I can provide for my family. And when you put them in the same seat as yourself and go like, let's just say my business went to shit tomorrow. All our clients fired us. Like, that stressed me out, right? Like, that's why I preach so much on the savings side. Like, we have 4 years of runway and we're cash flow positive. So the runway is technically infinite, but like, you get the idea of like, everything went to zero. It's like, it's like, I will always preach, and I get backlash sometimes. Like, you shouldn't pay your vendors early. You just shouldn't. Like, you should have real compensation structures that aren't just a discretionary bonus at the end of the year. Because then you have to make the choice between being a good human because you don't have a justification for not paying them their full bonus. And it's just like little things like that add up to dollars in your pocket. And so like crafting that whole narrative is like, it takes building trust and then putting intentionality in the business on behalf of protecting the owner in the business and the business itself.
I love that. All right. So you got a business, you're running it, you're doing 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 million. We don't need to go through the whole thing, but just 1-2 steps where they start, something they need to read. What do they need to focus on?
Yeah. Like, hire a bookkeeper. I preach it. Like, it doesn't have to be, I love Chris at System 6. I obviously love what we're doing. You don't need us if you're $1 million. Like, unless you're a complex business with real inventory and balance sheet or investors, like, you don't need that. Go to Pilot. It's not going to be great, but it's a hell of a lot better than zero. It's $300 a month or $400 a month, and it's probably AI, and transparently, it's probably subpar at best, but it's a hell of a lot better than zero. Like, if you can't afford $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month, like, people tend to go like, well, I can't get good, so I'd rather have nothing. It's like, below average is still a hell of a lot better than nothing when it comes to accounting. Because you can't file your taxes. You're never going to get a line of credit. You're never going to be able to get investors if you need it. Partnerships that want to provide you vendor lines of credit are never going to allow you to do it without clean books. So like, there's just a snowball effect there. So like, very simple, get a bookkeeper, review your financials every month. I don't care if you're a one-person company and you're doing $10,000 a month. Get that QuickBooks spreadsheet and stare at it for an hour, and think about, okay, does the business do the economics of this business make sense? Is my gross margin anywhere between 30 and 80%? Sub 30, you're going to struggle unless you're a commodity type business, which is high volume, which you probably wouldn't go into that business if you didn't know that already. So you want to sit 30 to 80% gross margins. And then there's some positive number at the bottom. If there's not a positive number on the bottom, go compare it to last month or the month before. or find some sort of like escape velocity. So like those are the two things that I would say is like, if you want to be successful financially, just start by like locking, even if you hate financials, lock yourself in a room for 30 minutes, do the Pareto principle.
Yeah.
Like just keep it simple, review your financials, get somewhat clean books, and you'll be better than most.
The mindset that I think, and I kept it in my early 20s, that I think most entrepreneurs keep, that I think is very dangerous, is they try to out-earn their problems.
Yeah.
They try to create top line, right? I heard something a while back.
Yeah.
Your business can only do two things. They can't do the same thing at the same time. You can either grow top line revenue or you can grow bottom line revenue. They can't be grown at the same time.
Yeah, it's true. And you just need to come away from that, like staring at the paperwork is like, are my expenses in check? If not, there's work to do. And it's what do I need to do next? Based on performance of this month, just like if you go run a mile and your goal's to run it in 8 miles, or in 8 minutes, and you run it in 8:10 or 8:10, go practice until you can run it under 8 minutes. It's no different than with financial. If you want to get to 30K a month and you're only doing 20, it's like, great. If you don't think that there's an expense question there, then great. You then have additional capital to grow the top line, and that's a whole different conversation. But it's really simple. You can only control the top line or the expenses, like you're saying, and you got to pick one each month to go focus on. If you're under 3 million, that's all you got to do.
No, the greatest thing I ever did for myself was 2.5 years ago. I hired a personal bookkeeper for my own finances, and I went from taking a month to do to my taxes to about 2 minutes, and it's the best money I ever spent. She's a single mom building a side business. She has 15 clients. I would gladly pay her every month. It's just made my life a lot easier because I don't have to worry about where everything's sticking because I have a lot of different stuff going on. Just that little simple thing is that peace of mind is amazing when you're running and gunning.
We probably get 25% of our clientele, unlike traditional businesses, not searchers, is, hey, I want to go get a line of credit. I want to go get a credit card. I want to go get some outside capital in some form or fashion, and my books aren't clean. It's that means you probably waited 6 months too long to reach out, and it's going to take us 30, 60, 90 days to go do that. Probably means you needed the capital 180 days ago.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah. We're about to have a meeting with our bank in 2 months. I told everybody at the bank, I said, I'm having one meeting. Having one meeting. I said, it's going to be way too much information. I'm going to lay out to you the next 1 to 3 to 5 year plan. And then you're going to know where we stand, what we're going to do, and you're going to tell me how you can help me, period. End of story. Yeah. And the only reason why we can do that is because we got our shit together.
Yeah. It's banks don't banks, of course, they're going to calculate risk.
There's no creativity with inside a bank. There's no creativity with inside a bank.
If you can show clean books and that you make money and have a real business, you can find someone to give you the capital that you need in 1,000%. Some form or fashion. And
more importantly, get it before you need it.
Yeah. That to me is kind of we've seen this so many times. When you need the money.
I'll use me as an example, right? This is a lesson for everybody. I could have asked money in January when it was slow season. But right now we have 4 million, 5 million worth of projects that started in April 1st. We're going to ask for money July 1st when we have 4 great months. He told me too. 4 great months of the P&L looks like it's like gangster because we're billing out huge clients. And he goes, ask me then. Don't ask me in January.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask for it when you don't need it. That's banks make their business based on lending to businesses in peak season, businesses at the top of the cycle. That's how businesses make their loans. At the top of the cycle, you won't get your banker to return your phone call. Get it when you don't need it. I would much rather you take an extra $1 million.
Get it when you start seeing the emails. Yeah.
Yeah, like go put it in treasuries. I don't care. Go get your working capital and start to funnel it through your business, your line of credit, HELOC, whatever it is. Like there's no reason why a traditional SMB shouldn't have some sort of open working capital AR factoring just to start using it.
Well, the greatest line in the history of the world, but relation to sports, but you can put it in life in general, is nobody wants to be the coach after Phil Jackson. Life is about positioning. Don't ask when rates are low and the market's humming. Ask when they're coming to you and asking you for money. Go, take a look at it.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't be more true.
So, okay, one more question. So you're at 25 million. This is for the big dogs. You're at 25 million, and you want to go to 50 to 75 million. What money mindset do you have to adopt to take it to the next level?
Yeah, I would say number one is like, what's the game plan, right? So we meet a decent amount of owners that are north of 25. They go, hey, Connor, I'm good. My goal is capital preservation. Just don't want to run out of money. I want to keep making my $2 million a year take home when I pay myself a distribution of $1.5 million in January. It's like, great. So then it's have clean books, have a good process, keep way more cash in the bank than you need. Like basically just the goal at that point is like never ever die. Cost containment, those sorts of things. Now, if you're starting it to that 20 to 50 million range and you go, hey, Connor, I'm trying to go build a $300 million behemoth. It's like, great. Go start building out a full finance function, because I would say that that's ultimately where you're going to start to see the most fraud. Number one, that probably 10 to 30 is probably the most prevalent, because it's people can steal enough for it to be worth it, and it's small enough to where a business won't notice it. It's the perfect spot, and you usually don't have enough of a finance function to stop it. And so north of that size, like you should be working with, if the owner is not financially savvy, and I would say even if he is, he or she is, you should be working with someone that is a financial professional. That doesn't need to be fractional CFO. It can be your buddy who's serious about helping people. It can be someone on Twitter. It could be someone who sold a bit. Like you just need someone who can start to kind of coach and guide the financial side of your business. You should probably at least have one or two internal finance people, one more senior, one more junior, like a bookkeeper and controller, bookkeeper and senior accountant, CFO, VP of finance, and a bookkeeper, something like that. You should really have at least two people at that size. And you might supplement that, like you might want to get a senior or controller and a CFO and then outsource the bookkeeping, or internal bookkeeping and outsource the CFO, whatever. But you really need at least probably two or three people in your business of that size to manage that. Because ultimately it's like, look, if you really are going to believe that you can turn into the behemoth, like having that CFO, having that VP of finance is going to be so crucial to that, because then you start getting into cash conversion cycles and managing a balance sheet, which I would say 99% of people can't do because it's not as clear and understanding as a P&L. And so like, that's where I would really start to invest in people, the owner's own knowledge of financials, and starting to really become more of that, like, because I would say, depending on the timeline, like you're going to need to acquire if you want to do that fast, or invest a lot of cash to grow. Which then means you need tighter cost controls. You need more of an understanding of ROI on certain investments, advertising, marketing, growth, headcount. It just becomes a whole different ballgame. And so I would really split that north of 25 into like capital preservation. I'm already wealthy. I don't need to make more than $2 million a year. I'm good. Like, great. Keep way more cash in the bank that you need. Keep controls in place around financials. And the other side is like, go beef up your finance team. Get high quality talent, overpay for them, and let them manage your balance sheet. Because ultimately, I don't care how big you are. I don't know if we work with any businesses over 25 million that don't have large lines of credit, large debt on the balance sheet of some kind that you need to manage.
No, I love that. So if people want to find out the website, your newsletter, all that great stuff, how would they do that?
Yeah, so best place is Twitter, just Connor Abene, Connor, Abene, Abene. And then website, we've got scalablecfo.io and scalable bookkeeping.co. And like I said, happy to help. And we also tell people, it's like, look, if we can't help, we'll refer you to someone that can. Luckily, I know tons of people in the industry, and we'll tell you what we can and can't do, and would love to be able to help. And I just, like I said, I believe in it, and eat my own pudding. I've got outsourced bookkeeping on my own team, and there's a point where I will likely hire a fractional CFO just because I want a second set of eyes on my business.
I love that. A man who walks in his own words. It's amazing. Guys, if you got some value from this, send it around to a friend, and we'll see you next time.